Real estate brokerage, serving all of South Central Wisconsin, and the commission is negotiable. Silver Compass will explain exactly what they're going to do to help you buy or sell a home, how that will help you reach your goals, and stand right beside you every step of the way. They want to be your broker, your expert, even when you're not in the middle of a transaction. Silver Compass Realty, helping you find your way home. Contact them today at silvercompassrealty.com or call 608-361-8608. Silver Compass Realty, helping you find your way home.
Would you like to experience being one of the free people who produce their own meat and eggs? PurelyPoultry.com has both the chickens and supplies you need to raise your own poultry.
Would you like pets who produce eggs you can barter with? Your own source of clean meat?
A swan on your pond to make your home strikingly beautiful?
How about some pheasants and quail roaming in your woods for enjoyment? If so, check out PurelyPoultry.com.
Burger House 41 is open at 1860 West Mason in Green Bay. You're invited to indulge in one of life's simplest pleasures, a great burger. We're grilling up 15 fresh signature burgers and have over 30 craft beers for the perfect pairing. Experience Wisconsin's best flavors, including white cheddar cheese curds, a variety of specialty sandwiches, milkshakes, and gourmet frozen custard. Burger House 41 at 1860 West Mason is open at 11 a.m. daily. Taste Wisconsin. Taste amazing.
We're back. You're listening to The Free People Show on freepeopleshow.com, as well as many other platforms. Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, SoundCloud, Facebook, and Twitter, among other things. Thanks very much to Dustin Dreyfus for helping me put the website together and actually putting up with my attention deficit disorder and forgetting things that he's already done. Forgive me for that, Dustin. I will definitely buy you a beer on Saturday if you're going to be around long enough to have one. And thanks again to my co-host, Miles. You're doing a great job, and we appreciate your input on these issues. And Miles is going to be at the Libertarian Party of Wisconsin convention this weekend as well, interviewing people. So all of you who are going, expect Miles's microphone to be around and his camera at some point to ask you some questions and gather that up and use it for some future project. Is that right, Miles?
Yeah, we'd love anybody to come and do a minute. Come talk for a minute with me, and let's do a minute-long interview, 2-minute-long interview, and I want to get everybody to talk about an issue. You know, talk about some issue you care about, and I'll make a video of it. Yeah, it's gonna be great. We're also gonna try and do a show from Tree Haven this weekend too. I'm not sure exactly when. There's a lot going on up there, but we're going to try and do one at least. We should all go fishing without a permit. Oh, civil disobedience. Oh my goodness! Joining us now is our guest, our second half guest, Andy Craig, who not only is a friend of mine, and who was one of the people, maybe the person, to put the idea in my mind to run for Senate in the first place. Thanks, Andy. My whole family thanks you. For that, but also has been our candidate for United States Congress at least a couple of times, has been most recently the secretary of the Libertarian Party of Wisconsin, is running for vice chair of the Libertarian Party of Wisconsin. It has also served on the Gary Johnson campaign as the person coordinating endorsements, and who has been recently named to two new very important committees. I guess they're not new committees, but they're newly composed for the Libertarian National Party. So why don't you tell us about that, Andy?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. The Libertarian Party's National Committee that Nick Sarwark's the chair of, that one, had their meeting in Pittsburgh, I believe it was, over the weekend. They were filling... So the way this works, the bylaws committee is one of them, and the platform committee is the other. And the National Party picks 5 seats on the platform committee and 10 seats on the bylaws committee, and some of the rest are filled out by some of the state parties, like the largest state parties get a seat. Wisconsin doesn't get one, so yet. But anyway, so I was elected to the in a 3-way tie for second place. So we got the second, third, and fourth seats with me and 2 other people on the platform committee. So that's very good. I got, I believe, first place out of 10 on the bylaws committee. So I was kind of surprised. Honestly, I've been a little critical sometimes of some members of the National Committee and what the National Committee's been up to. So it was a little bit heartwarming to see that they still appreciate what I'm doing and what we've all been doing, even when I have something critical of them to say.
Yeah,
so, I'll be
congratulations, Andy. It was fantastic to see you do so well. Also, because you and I travel in different circles caucus-wise, which is interesting because I think that you and I agree on just about everything, but we are heavily involved in me and the
we could get into
caucus
that
and
discussion.
you and the Pragmatist caucus. But I saw some reaction among the radicals of, oh my goodness, that pragmatist Andy Craig was elected to these, so we need to make sure that we get representatives on the district, for the district representatives and everything. And I was like, well, I don't know. Andy's not so pragmatist. I think he's kind of a radical too. I don't think it makes that much difference, to be honest, for most things. But that was the reaction I saw.
I feel very strongly that they're not. I mean, they're not in opposition. I don't consider the Pragmatist Caucus to be defined by being in opposition to the Radical Caucus. I think we have different focuses. The point of the Radical Caucus is, it's an ideological focus on what the party platform should be and what the message should be, and they have a direction they want to go in that. And for me, the Pragmatist Caucus is not about that. It's not the moderate caucus. It's about effectiveness and good governance in the party, and professionalizing the party and doing the things that we know work in terms of organization and structure. And so for me, the Pragmatist Caucus isn't necessarily so much as about like the platform committee. It would be more about the bylaws committee. Being a Pragmatist Caucus would have more of a view on. So that's kind of my thing about it. There's certainly plenty of radicals I get along with fine, and there are a few non-radicals that I don't get along with.
Yeah. I agree. It's just a matter of perspective, although I think it goes back to that sort of psychological phenomenon that I was talking about before, that people like to identify as being one thing and not another. And because the Paleo Caucus and the Audacious Caucus and other caucuses aren't really that active, that the two that are active so far sort of naturally find themselves in opposition.
I think you're right about that. And when we're talking about our own state convention coming up, I'm kind of insistent that I don't want it. I don't want it to be like that. I don't want it to be these two camps locked in a death battle with each other or anything like that. I think there's a lot of overlap, and we all know each other fairly well. But you're right. That's kind of part of the natural dynamic when there's two kind of main groups that are opposed sometimes on some things. Then people tend to look at it that way, but. I think we're all libertarians first.
Yeah, I agree. So, what's your vision for the next 2 years for LPWI? I asked Scott that question, and he talked a little bit about issues, and of course he has been critical of the way things have been run for the last couple of years, which in my heart I take exception to because I've been involved. But he's not really referring to me or to Patrick or to anyone else who's currently serving as an officer on the XCOM except for you. And if I remember correctly, you were the person who presented the slate of candidates in 2014, most of whom are gone now. So Andy,
this is true.
in response to the coronation accusations, it didn't turn out that well in the long run, did it?
Well, I'll say this about 2014. You said I presented this slate of candidates. There was no slate of candidates in 2014. There was nothing more than people talking with each other about, do you want to go for that position? Do you want to go for that position? And, it ended up being that there weren't multiple people. I don't know what Scott, kind of expects me to do, to go out and recruit two candidates for each office. But,
Noah for the ARC. You got to get two for each one.
All of the people who were elected officers in 2014 had been involved in the party for years. Our former chair had been involved in the party for many years before I was. I do take it as a little bit of a point of pride that I finished my term, and I'm the only one who will have. But I didn't, this idea, I mean, it's an open process. It literally, anybody can show up and get nominated so long as they're a member of the party. I don't shrink from contested elections. It's my understanding that Peter Gelly is still running for vice chair, and I don't have anything at all negative to say about him. I think, Peter's a good member of the party. He's been a good, I'm glad he's in the party, and John. Sometimes people want to make it this kind of House of Cards Machiavellian drama. We're not that big a group. I mean, there will be 40 to 50 to 60, somewhere in that range, people at our convention. This is too small a circle to try to pull off, this kind of grand Machiavellian schemes that people sometimes imagine.
I didn't see it that way when I was there in 2014. I wasn't very involved before that, but it didn't appear that way to me. But I wasn't really involved to the point where I could, debunk that statement.
Well, and at that point, I had only been involved myself for about a year,
Yeah, so it all works out though. There's a process of people having something to offer at a certain time, and certainly we've had a lot of turnover on the XCOM, and it's been by everyone's assessment, pretty much there's been a decent amount of turmoil and conflict. But over the course of the last 4 or 5 months or so, meetings have been very productive. A lot has gotten done, and if you extend that timeline farther back, with affiliates growing, membership growing, people being involved in elections, and how well the candidates did in the election cycle last year, certainly the case can be made that as far as the state party and the XCOM in specific goes, that things have been going very, very well for the last year or so. Wouldn't you agree?
I would say, that's another point that's worth raising is, a lot of people might not have necessarily been involved 3 or 4 years ago. I think that the trends have been very positive. We got our ballot access back in 2014. We got Gary Johnson automatically on the ballot in 2016. He did very well. You did very well. In the past 2 years, between 2014 or 3 years, I guess, between 2014 and 2016, we broke all the records for every office that we run candidates for, from state assembly up to president. There's been some drama and there's been some turmoil, and there's certainly a lot of things I would like to, us to get better at. But this idea that, when I first got involved, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say the party was borderline defunct. We had maybe 2 actively meeting affiliates. We hadn't got a candidate on the ballot for governor since Ed Thompson. We hadn't, I think, other than Joe in 2012, we hadn't got a candidate on the ballot for Senate in many years before him. I think things are moving in the right direction, and that there's definitely positive trend lines. Our membership numbers are up. The number of active affiliates we have is way, way up, thanks in no small part to Holly Levick and the great work she's been doing. It is what it is. I have my record of what I've done in the party, and I think it kind of stands for itself, and that'll be up to the folks at the convention.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for that input, Andy. Can you stay around till the next segment, another 2 minutes or so through the break?
Sure.
All right, we'll do that. You're listening to the Free People Show, freepeopleshow.com. Sorry, hearing my own echo. Miles will jump in after the break and ask some questions for Andy, possibly, or maybe just some ranting. We'll see. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Andy Craig. Thanks to Scott Noble. Thanks to our engineer, Samuel Anderson. Thanks to you for watching on Facebook and everyone listening. We'll be back after a break. Again, you're listening to The Free People Show at freepeopleshow.com. $6%? 7%? That's a lot of money. I might as well just do it myself. Well, that might be true, if a lot of that money you're paying a real estate broker is going toward outdated methods, unnecessary fancy offices, and overpaying executives for a lifetime of service.